Hello and welcome to Not a Buffalo, the show where we discuss the science and technology that will save the world. My name's Ben and I have always used a Windows laptop. This is Jack and he has just got a Windows laptop and it's made him feel icky. So Jack, what's your problem with Windows?
Yeah, this is true. I feel icky about it, and I wouldn't say I so much have a problem with Windows. It's more that I just prefer Linux, you know? Like, I just feel more at home on an operating system which is built entirely by people who've opted out of society.
I'm sorry, I like that. That's very good. Yeah, I could see that, and part of me that was thinking it's just because they use a penguin as a symbol instead of just four coloured squares, which is a bit more innovative, a bit more creative.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the penguin's only like 3 colours, I think. I have sort of a meta theme that I want to introduce, which is that a couple of days ago, the Ig Nobel prizes were announced.
Well, I am more than happy to go through the Ig Nobel prizes. I have them up here now, and we can maybe just discuss some of those and see what people think.
That sounds good to me. I was particularly fond of the 3 research papers on whether or not pizza prevents diseases, and in particular cancer. Particularly fond of them because they were done by an Italian.
Yes, so the 2019 Medicine Prize of the Ig Nobel Prizes went to Silvano Gallus for collecting evidence that pizza might protect against illness and death if the pizza is made and eaten in Italy. I love that. And they looked at, does pizza protect against cancer, pizza and the risk of acute myocardial infarction, and pizza consumption and the risk of breast, ovarian, and prostate cancer. So they covered a lot of bases there through this research, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a definite theme, and it's not cancer, it's pizza. I'm the one that I wanted to highlight actually was to do with money, possibly because I'm reading a book on money at the moment. But it's the economics prize, which went to I'm going to mispronounce this gentleman's name, Habib Gedik, and Timothy A. Voss and Andreas Voss from Turkey, the Netherlands, and Germany. And they were testing which country's paper money is the best at transmitting dangerous bacteria. So they tested it with the multi-drug resistant pathogens, MRSA, VRE, and the ESBL producing E. coli.
Wow.
Oh yeah. But that's this. I mean, if you're worried now,
this wasn't a field test, was it? They weren't handing out infected money just in like the train station or something. Just
in part 1, they weren't. No, they tested tested Canadian and US dollars, the euro, the Indian rupee, the Croatian luna, and the Romanian leu. And the Romanian leu is the one that really went to town, which was able to yield samples of all 3 microorganisms after a 3-hour and a 6-hour period of drying. So they dipped it in like a solution which had those in them. So that's concerning because that means it can hold on to it. What's even better, though, and when I say better, I mean worse, is that in the second part of the study, they tested the currencies that had produced any of the 3 pathogens after the sampling, of which the euro, the Romanian leu, and the US dollar. However, transmission didn't succeed on the euro banknotes, but transmission of the Romanian leu was possible with the E. coli and the MSSA. While the US dollar was only able to transmit the MSSA. And they think, in the discussion, they sort of go into it, that most cotton fiber notes, they're pretty good at not transmitting stuff. Don't know why. But Romanian notes are made of a polymer, which was supposed to be more durable and prevent counterfeiting and everything. And it does that. But unfortunately, it also seems to be able to allow pathogens to live on it for long periods of time and be transmitted between different parts of the population. Yeah, it could mean a sharp decline in the number of countries using polymer banknotes, and I hope it does.
Very good.
I thought it was quite an exciting little read.
I do love the Ig Nobel prizes, and I realise we probably should explain what they are very quickly to our listeners.
Oh yeah.
So the Ig Nobel prizes, are they satirical awards or just comedy awards? They're a satire of the Nobel prizes essentially, aren't they? But they're still
maybe parodic, because they are a parody of them as well, aren't they? I suppose.
Yes. Yes, that's probably the best way of putting it. But they're awarded in November of a year, and they have a number of different categories for research that made you laugh and then make you think. Isn't that their tagline?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And the thing I love about them is they have a tradition, which I believe still goes on, with at the ceremony, the award winners go up, and I think they have a maximum of 2 minutes to speak. And once they have reached the 2 minutes, a young girl comes out onto stage and just starts saying, "Can you stop now? I'm bored. Can you stop now? I'm bored." Which is something I think should be implemented in all political speeches and most other event speeches.
That sounds terrific.
It's a very good way of getting people to wrap it up.
If only they'd done that with the thing that's happening in the UK.
If only. The one that really caught my eye initially was the Medical Education Prize, which is awarded to two American researchers, Karen Pryor and Teresa McKeon, for using a simple animal training technique called clicker training to train surgeons to perform orthopedic surgery.
Oh, nice.
Their conclusions were actually that operant learning, which is using the clicker to try and reinforce the behaviour, is more effective than demonstrating the techniques to surgeons. So apparently, they use the clicker to reinforce positive behaviour, and when the trainee surgeons got the procedure exactly correct, they used an example of the low angle drill hole test, where there was an ideal 6-step behaviour for precisely drilling the low angle hole compared with the control group, which is the group that didn't get the clicker. And they decided that it's because it's highly reinforced with the results measured, so it's positive reinforcement for the result, and that aided in the ultimate outcome of an accurately built complex behaviour. So really, really fascinating that the same way you might train your dog to fetch a ball, it can be used to train an orthopedic surgeon to drill a hole in your skull or somewhere else. I didn't actually see where they drilled the hole.
That's fantastic. Because if you can teach that with it, presumably you can teach just about anything with it.
I imagine, anything where you have to get a procedure exactly correct. It sounds like anything where you could just add in the positive reinforcement would be... You just need a clicker.
Yeah.
And it's healthier than trying to give them chocolate treats.
That is how all teenagers will learn to drive in the future.
Yeah, probably. Very probably.
Yeah.
But so that was the one that caught my eye. What was it? What's the next one you wanted to talk about?
I did quite like the one where they measured the amount of saliva that an infant produces.
Okay. Why did they do that?
It was the chemistry prize, because infants are mostly made of chemicals.
True.
They had 15 boys and 15 girls, and they asked them to record for 2 days the time spent awake eating meals or snacks and sleeping, and they were recording the saliva flow rates elicited by chewing foods were also determined. But unfortunately, the full paper isn't available.
I read, and this might be a good tip for all listeners, I think I was following a scientist on Twitter, and she said they make basically no money from the journals. Like when you pay $39 or whatever it is for a journal article, the money all goes to the publisher. So if you've heard about their article or their paper, just email them and they'll probably send it to you for free. Assuming that they have the time and everything, but they said because there's no benefit to them once it's been published and people find out about it. That's the only benefit to the journal, but there's no benefit. They don't get any money through the journal, so they're happy to just give them away for free because it's all about kind of raising their profile more than anything.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So top tip.
I always enjoy the surfing around on a DOAJ, which is, do you know the DOAJ?
No, what's that?
They are Directory of Open academic journals. Yeah, I think it's something like that. Essentially, they're journals, the content of which is available for free. And they're all back in 2004. They started pulling all of these together onto one site so so you could actually access them in a meaningful way and surf the data properly. And it's grown into this enormous directory of journals, which contains tens of thousands of them. And there's some amazing stuff on there. It's a really cool site if you want to just go digging around for an interesting idea to play around with, which is something I do quite a lot.
Fantastic. Oh, that sounds really good. I'm going to have to check that out. Moving on to the next prize, the Ig Nobel Peace Prize has really caught my eye. So this was a joint study from someone from the UK, someone from Saudi Arabia, someone from Singapore, and someone from the USA, or rather multiple people from each of those areas. I'm not going to try and read out all of the names because I think I can pronounce one of them. But they won the Ig Nobel Peace Prize for measuring or trying to measure the pleasurability of scratching an itch.
That's great.
And so I quite like their method. So, and again, we should emphasize that these Ig Nobel Prizes, they're all proper scientific papers that are submitted.
Yeah. Which have passed peer review and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they're published in proper journals and everything. So, really, it's high quality stuff. It's just the results are maybe a little bit amusing. So the method for this one was they induced an itch on the forearm, ankle, and back in 18 healthy subjects using cowage spicules, which I'm not familiar with. Is that like the technical term for a hairbrush or something, maybe, or feathers?
I don't know what it is.
But the intensity of itch with and without scratching at these sites and the pleasurability of scratching were recorded by taking visual analog scale ratings at 30-second intervals. Which visual analog scale ratings, doesn't that just mean they looked at it?
I was going to say, doesn't that mean they just looked at the person who was supposedly happy and then were like, oh, I think that's a 7. Like,
yeah, I mean, I haven't I haven't read through the full article, but the conclusions were that there are topographical differences in itch intensity, the effectiveness of scratching and relieving the itch, and the associated pleasurability. So yes, it can be more pleasurable to scratch yourself on the forearm than on the ankle, even if they are the same level of itchiness.
This does seem like this is as close as we've come so far, I think, to a paper which definitely sounds useless. It's like, not all itches are the same. My God.
I like
wow.
the very philosophical approach they've taken to the Peace Prize, because I think there's nothing that kind of makes you feel more internally peaceful than successfully scratching a good itch.
That is
or
true.
An annoying itch. So they've kind of gone, and also the team, we had the team from the UK, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, and USA. So very multicultural, kind of world-spanning team as well. Which in today's world, it's just nice to see people from across the board working together. But so that was the Peace Prize.
I quite like the biology one. I thought that was pretty good.
Go on, explain to the listeners the biology prize.
So the biology prize is a paper called In Vivo Biomagnetic Characterizations of the American Cockroach.
Do explain what that means.
So what they did is they put 2 sets of cockroaches into magnetic fields and aligned their bodies with the flow of the magnetic field, and then observed the behavior of the cockroaches and any resultant interference. And it turns out that not only do I should explain what the differences between the 2 sets of cockroaches were. So set 1 was alive and set 2 was dead.
Okay.
So amazingly, the behavior of those 2 was different. Perhaps that's an expected result, but also the interference with the electromagnetic field is also different. So they concluded that the cockroach can produce a degree of biomagnetism within itself, which is fascinating, and that this biomagnetism continues after death, but is changed. So the level of interference is different. It's an amazing paper, actually. Like, I read a bit of it before our phone call, and because I thought, oh, this sounds hilarious. Let's do this, and then I just got really into it. I was like, oh yeah, this is interesting. This is they got diagrams and everything. It's great.
So it made you laugh, and then it made you think. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Well, I think the last one that I really wanted to talk about in detail was the Anatomy Prize, which went to 2 French researchers, Roger Monsieur and Boris Ben-Godifa.
This is the postman one, isn't it?
It is. So I'm just going to give the listeners a minute to kind of guess what they think this Anatomy Prize could have gone for related to postmen in France. Just take a minute, think about it.
What do French postmen have that no other postman does?
Well, I'm not sure that no other postmen have. I love the background in this. So the background reads, scrotal temperatures in men have been reported to be either similar on both sides or higher on the left than the right scrotum. We aim to clarify this discrepancy from new data.
We are definitely not a family show anymore.
I'm using very scientific terms. I feel like it's fine. It's only when you start getting rude and using slang terms that it stops being a family show. This is just science. This is basically, the same as learning about human anatomy when you're 10 years old.
As long as we don't say Homo erectus, it's fine.
Again, scientific name, but I think it's fine. But anyway, yeah, so they did several experiments. In experiment 1, 8 men were submitted to 4 successive body positions for 15 minutes each, first naked and then clothed. Experiment 2 involved 11 postal employees working in standing positions for 90 minutes. And experiment 3 involved 11 bus drivers and a 90-minute period of continuous driving. And
why are they all public sector? What did
I guess
what
they
did they do?
Would agree to it. I have no idea. They had probes attached to their scrotum, and the temperatures were measured every 2 minutes. And the conclusions were that there was a lack of thermal symmetry in the left and right scrotum, which is a phrase I never thought I'd say. I never even...
Oh, that's wonderful.
But the lack of thermal symmetry applied regardless of whether the subject was naked or clothed, and regardless of position or activity. And this thermal difference between the left and right scrotum could contribute to the asymmetry in the male external genital organs. So from that, I'm reading why one scrotum may be higher than the other is because of the temperature, although I would have thought that would have caused the temperature difference more than contributing to it. But they seem to think it will contribute to it. So yeah, that was the national prize. But do you just want to maybe we, rather than go through all of the rest of them, we could just quickly skim over some of what the other prizes were. So
yeah, now we've touched on the scrotum, I feel like we can't really go any higher.
Yeah,
in our level of scientific inquiry.
So I'll take the psychology prize. A German called Fritz Strack discovered that holding a pen in one's mouth makes one smile, which makes one happier, and then discovered that it does not.
That's amazing. I hadn't read that one. So we shouldn't hold pens in our mouths? Is that what I take away from that? Because it's just a false happiness?
The full title of the paper is Inhibiting and Facilitating Conditions of the Human Smile, a non-obtrusive test of the facial feedback hypothesis.
Funky.
He did a study in 1988 that found that holding a pen in one's mouth makes one smile. But then a follow-up study he did in 2017 discovered that it doesn't.
What an interesting man he must be.
I like that he's trying to find ways of making people happier.
I like that he did the tests 30 years apart.
It's like a comeback kind of thing for an actor that's kind of lost relevance, isn't it? Like, oh, I remember that made such a big... everyone was talking about when I discovered that pens make you happier.
When I had that breakthrough role of chewing a pen.
I've not done anything lately, so I'll just go back and try the pen thing again.
Oh, that's a really good... That's a lovely story to end on that.
Yeah, and then there's also a physics prize, an engineering prize, and just those two, which we didn't have time to cover. So go and look those up.
The physics one was good. The wombats with making cubed poo, but again, that one is that's a closed source journal. Boo, boo, closed source journal. Boo,
boo.
Boo.
But anyway, if you would like to know more, go to improbable.com and check out the Ig Nobel prizes there. They have some merchandise you can buy. They have past winners, and it's definitely worth something checking out for the future.
They have mugs.
They have mugs you can buy. That's an important thing.
They say, please stop, I'm bored, repeatedly.
Before we move on, I do have one quick thing that I want to mention. So there is a man, do you know who this person is? Sir Andrei Konstantin Geim.
No. Who is he?
He is a Russian-born Dutch-British physicist working in England at the University of Manchester.
Oh, is he the graphene guy?
And he is the only person to have won both a Nobel Prize and an Ig Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
So he won the 2010 Nobel Prize in Physics with Konstantin Novoselov for his work on graphene. But before that, in 2000, he won the Ig Nobel Prize for basically levitating frogs with magnets.
Yes, yeah. See, he magnetized because their water content, he was able to levitate them and rotate them.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That actually links very well to my other story that I wanted to talk about. It is something to do with ethics, but I'm going to let you, because I know you had a story that you really wanted to talk about that you did some foreshadowing for at the beginning of the episode, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, my story that's a sort of prequel to an older really cool science. Do you remember Oumuamua?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I thought it... do you mean Oumuamua?
That might be how you say it.
The cigar-shaped asteroid that we thought might be an alien spaceship.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that one. That was the first interstellar object that we observed. Like, it almost certainly isn't the first interstellar object that's passed through in man's existence on Earth, but it's the first one we observed. And just a few days ago, I think it was August 30th, a second one was observed, which is given the catchy title of C/2019Q4, or Borisov.
Okay.
Which was discovered by Gennady Borisov, an astronomer working in Ukraine. And it seems to be a comet, but it's on this incredibly arced trajectory. And it's going at something in the region of 150,000 kilometers an hour.
Wow.
Which is really fast.
That is insanely fast.
Yeah, and that's well above the velocities of objects that you generally see in the vicinity of a solar system, because to be in a solar system they have to orbit the sun, and that's way too fast to be caught by our sun.
Yeah.
But what's amazing about this one is we've spotted it on the way in. So last time with Oumuamua, the object was spotted while it was on its way out of the solar system and doing some weird things gravitationally, which we still don't really understand how they're possible, which, as you say, is why some people say it's an alien spacecraft, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this one really does look like a comet, and it's going to become properly visible from about April 2020. So, and it's already detectable with long-range telescopes and things like that. So we've got like a long period of study, because it should be visible right up to 2020 with October 2020 with professional telescopes. So
fantastic.
Yeah, like we're going to find out all sorts of interesting things about the way that interstellar objects actually work, which is just, I'm really excited about it. Because I was rereading the old story like 2 weeks ago, because someone had done an interview with the guy who discovered it. Then this happened, and I was like, yeah, this is great.
That is really cool. Really cool. I can't, definitely something we'll have to keep following, see what the results are.
Yeah. Did you say you had another story you wanted to?
Yeah, so just talking about the ethics of, as you said, the ethics of studying on students. Well, we know there's a lot of ethical constraints around studying or experimenting on humans, I should say. But it's also quite useful to experiment on humans, or at least human-like things, because animal testing is quite unethical in and of itself, and is never going to be quite the right substitution for the real thing. So I came across this story with the headline is "Lab-grown human mini brains show brainy activity."
That's kind of amazing, though. So they're now able to grow brains in a lab. That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's a University of California San Diego biologist Alison Murotri, and they basically had this conundrum where they wanted to study early human brain development, but couldn't study fetuses for what is hopefully obvious reasons to everyone out there listening. So they basically got some stem cells and used them to create brain cells in petri dishes, and they bathed them in a culture of nutrients. But they've actually started to form functional synapses that will later turn on to networks, and they found that after 2 months, these mini brains started to emit brainwaves.
That's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. And that seems really early as well.
Yep. By around 10 months, the brain activity compares to that of premature human infants. So I think there's still a lot of ethical queries around this, and philosophical as well. Like, what exactly is intelligence and consciousness, and how do we define a human, and at what point do we start questioning what we can or should do with these things. But Dr. Murotri points out themselves that ethical questions will start to emerge, but it's also really, really useful for being able to study human development in this way. They have a brain in a jar essentially that they can study and do things to, that's really useful to reveal how the human brain evolved. And hopefully one of the things they point out is it could help them create artificial intelligence for brains that way. They can look at human development and even potentially going on to the future. I imagine they can use them to figure out, how potentially learning difficulties develop, how Alzheimer's might develop, and therefore come up with potential ways of preventing those things from happening, which is really fascinating. But also kind of, it's very the first thing I think of when you think brain in a jar is Futurama. Always comes to my mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really heavy story though, because there's not that much difference between growing a brain in a petri dish and growing an actual human in a petri dish, because the brain is kind of the key bit to being a human being.
Yeah,
because that seems to be, if consciousness is a thing, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Wow. Is this the first time that's been done?
As far as I can tell, yes. It's the first time that they've actually been able to measure brainy activity, as they put it, coming from this, from something like this.
That's amazing.
Although, weirdly, and we may cut this out because we might not want this on the podcast, but I was also listening to another podcast where they were talking about some Russian experiments to create a human Z, so a chimpanzee and a human hybrid. And
have they not seen Planet of the Apes?
Well, the idea was to create super soldiers under their control. Story, you know what? I won't even go into further details. Let's end on the positive note, which is they found a way of potentially being able to study the human brain, and that could lead to some really incredible medicines and understanding for the future. So really, really nice story there.
Can finally answer the question of whether experimental music really does make your brain vibrate.
Makes your brain vibrate?
Yeah, there's a viral YouTube video going around at the moment of YouTubers react to experimental music, and the caption of it is just one of them saying, "My brain is vibrating."
I think this might be a first where you've seen the thing going around virally on social media and I haven't heard of it.
That's true. Maybe that's
your
worrying,
break from reading really has paid off.
Yeah, for listeners, I spent 10 days not reading books.
And you learnt all about pop culture, and what have you decided? Are you going to go back to reading?
The internet is amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
I think that's all of my stories. Is that also all of your stories?
I do have a couple more, but sadly I'm out of segues. And I think I enjoyed covering the Ig Nobel prizes instead, so I can save these
that was
stories
fun.
for another time.
So do an Ig Nobel special.
Do you want to do the... Wait, who does the outro? Do I do the outro, or do you do the outro?
I think you did the intro, so I should probably do the outro.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to the show to never miss an episode, and rate and review us wherever you have the power to do so. If you'd like to get in touch, we are at Not a Buffalo Pod on Twitter, Not a Buffalo Podcast on Facebook, or contact us through the website notabuffalo.wordpress.com. Bye.
Bye-bye.